When Brandon comes over to him, Noah viscerally breaks his jaw. Brandon is drawing another symbol from the ground in his blood when he lies dying. Brandon's back home, telling me he spent the whole time playing soccer. He's explaining how he's been bullied, and that's why he lost his shirt. That night, Kyle has a nightmare that shows him how Tori first found the baby in the meteor and chooses to adopt him. When his eyes suddenly light up with lasers, however, it's terrifying him. He wakes up on the phone, and Kyle and Tori have been called to the hospital where Marilee is. She explains Noah was killed, and they comfort her. She says Brandon came for a visit before Kyle, which concerns her. The next morning, they give Brandon the news about Noah, but all he says is, "Okay." Now Kyle wonders what's going on, accusing Brandon of being there. Tori's trying to keep him calm, but he's getting even more angry. Brandon shoves him into the kitchen, breaking the door in the process. Tori sends him away. Later, Kyle finds Brandon's shirt and notices a little blood on it, but manages to remove it without noticing. He's sorry for earlier, but Brandon just says, "All right," once more. Kyle explains to Tori what he's found, but she won't take his word for it. In the meantime, the sheriff is taking a close look at the accident, and he's noticing similarities to the diagram from the window and what's been drawn on the ground. Kyle's looking at Brandon's old birthday cards that night, trying to make Tori feel better. He decides to take Brandon hunting the following day. As they go, the sheriff visits Tori to explain what he's found with the photos. She doesn't acknowledge them, but he says he'll be back. In the woods, Brandon and Kyle follow some deer tracks, and Kyle lets him walk ahead. In the house, Tori finds Brandon's notebook and sees the same diagram from the window and the road, and other drawings, such as his outfit and glass in the waitress's eye, and a few dead people with the words, "Take the world." She panics. Brandon's looking at the tracks in the forest as Kyle tries to shoot him. The bullet fires but just bounces off of Brandon's head. As Kyle tries to restart, he shows a startled look. He figures out they're keeping tabs on them through the cameras. Plus, the whole cabin is practically a tech playground. Marty is still deep in thought when a zombie jumps him through a window. The zombie pulls Marty out, making it look like he's a goner. Once again, the gruesome artwork gets a fresh coat of blood. Now there are only 3 survivors left among the pals, trying to make a getaway in their ride to stay alive. After that, they show the Japan Project, where kids did some ritual and turned a demon into a frog. That stunt didn't go well, so the Japan Project is marked as a failure. Now the only project left is the one involving the Friends, as all the big international plans flopped. Dana and her crew try to make a break for it through a tunnel, thinking it's an easy way out. Turns out they're dead wrong because they're not the ones calling the shots. It's the lab department. Lab department folks blow the place up, wrecking the whole tunnel. Their path is blocked since the entry and exit are the same, and crossing the tunnel is a no-go. Then Dana's friend cooks up a plan. He suggests jumping a nearby ditch on his motorcycle, crossing the way, and bringing in the police cavalry. Sadly, his leap turns into a crash, meeting an invisible power wall, and that's the end of him. Now, Danae and her male friend are the last ones standing. They hop into the vehicle, trying to find another way. But darn it, there's a zombie hitching a ride. It shoves a rod into the throat of Dana's friend, sealing his fate. The vehicle goes haywire and lands in a pool. Miraculously, Dana swims out, dodging the zombie. And out of the blue, Dana's friend Marty pops up, proving that Marty is still in the game. The film opens with Tori and Kyle Breyer trying to have a baby. We've seen a lot of books on the shelves that say it, though they don't seem to be successful. In the middle of their latest attempt, Tori feels vibrations from something crashing outside. She brushes it off at first, but then a louder shake is enough to make the lights go out. They look out the window and see something has crashed outside. Then we're going to show you a video of the baby Brandon when he grows up. Then we're going to show you a video of the baby Brandon as he grows up. When she saw some of these videos, Tori started playing hide and seek with Brandon's somewhat mature version. Brandon's at school in response to a question from the teacher. A young classmate named Caitlin notices this. Brandon went back to the farm that night to sleep in the basement as Tori painted and found a meteor, which he'd probably come to Earth in. When he tries to get close, he shouts angrily. Tori's calming him down. Brandon's going out the next morning to do some lawn work. He's frustrated that he can't start the tractor, and he's throwing it a few hundred yards. He goes over to see the blade spinning on it. Curious, he jams his hand into it, stopping it cold without taking a scratch. Later, with Tori, Kyle, his Aunt Marilee, and Uncle Noah, the family will stop at a diner. Kyle reprimands Noah when he tries to give him a toy gun. Brandon's asking for a weapon, however. This leaves the family in the middle of their celebration, with the waitress watching as they leave. Brandon's not even listening to Kyle the next morning. He's noticing that Brandon chews on a fork without hurting his teeth. Kyle takes Brandon hunting, shows him the rifle, and explains how his body changes after Tori finds some lingerie ads under their beds. Brandon's stalking Caitlin while he listens to a slow rock song later that night. She's noticing that the music on her computer is playing, and she shut it down. But she's nervous that he sees her from across the room. Her mother, the waitress from her previous visit, suddenly burst in and asked what was happening. She's starting to breathe nervously. Noah and Tori are looking for Brandon back on the farm.
It's been quite some time since Avengers Endgame was released, and by now perhaps everyone has seen it. However, many people may not fully understand this movie because behind its 3-hour screen time lies an 11-year-old story. And it is a science fiction movie, making it a bit hard to comprehend. So today I will explain the entire story of Avengers Endgame to you. The story of this movie starts where Avengers Infinity War ended. When the Infinity War battle concluded, Clint Barton, who is also known as Hawkeye, who is an important member of Avengers, was with his family. Clint had broken a law a few years ago, resulting in his house arrest. And during that time, the battle between Thanos and the Avengers was ongoing. Hawkeye was dealing with personal loss as his entire family turned to dust. Clint couldn't comprehend where his family had gone. However, when he realized what had happened, Clint became consumed with grief and went on a rampage. The focus shifts to what happens next. Tony and Nebula were stranded in space for 22 days, running out of food and oxygen. Tony in despair was slowly giving in to his anticipation of death. Tony Stark and Nebula had been in space for 22 days, facing dwindling resources and depleting oxygen. Tony, feeling defeated and accepting the inevitability of death, was on the verge of giving up. However, after a brief moment, their spaceship crosses paths with Captain Marvel. She had left Earth in 1995 and returned when everyone started disintegrating in 2018. Carol brings Tony and Nebula back to Earth, and upon their return, Captain Marvel informs them about Thanos and the use of the Infinity Stones.
Jack, Isabel, and Elmont follow the river, encountering a sleeping giant. Jack uses a beehive to divert the giant's attention, causing it to fall off a cliff. Isabel and Jack share relief, but Elmont disapproves. As they approach the edge, Elmont stays to confront Roderick, appointing Jack as Isabel's guardian. They bid farewell to Elmont and continue their journey. The kingdom decides to cut down the beanstalk to keep everyone safe. The king orders the general for its removal. At the same time, Jack and Isabel come down from the beanstalk and share a moment before watching the process. In another place called Gantua, Elmont fights with Roderick over some special beans. Roderick ends up defeated, but General Fallon becomes the giant king. Near the bottom of the beanstalk, people cut a part of it, and it starts to fall apart. Isabel and Jack ride it down, using a part of it like a rope. Elmont jumps on the top before it completely falls. General Fallon sees everything. Jack and Isabel swing away, and Elmont's part reaches the palace. The king, thinking he lost his daughter, feels better when she's brought back to him. Isabel tells him about Roderick, and the king says sorry. Jack is rewarded by the king and goes away. Isabel, wearing armor, says goodbye and gets a book as a gift. She rides with her dad to the palace. At the same time, General Fallon finds more magic beans, and they quickly start to grow when he puts them in water. The giants get ready, climb, and push down the growing beanstalks. On Earth, Jack tells the king about the giants. They hurry to the city but are slowed down by the first beanstalk. Elmont gets the army ready with archers and hot oil. The giants follow Jack closely, and Elmont is ready to use the hot oil when they reach the city.